Silence is a weapon. Not passive silence, but strategic silence charged with presence. When you don't react, explain, or justify yourself, you change the rules of the game. The other person is left without a map, not knowing where to step. We live in a noisy world. Those who talk too much reveal weaknesses. Those who remain silent create space. Silence is disconcerting because it holds up a mirror to the other person's discomfort. It forces them to deal with themselves. Nietzsche already intuited this. When you don't fight with words, you shift the battle to a higher plane, that of presence. Silence, when used well, shows self-sufficiency. It shows that you don't need to win on the surface because you've already won inside. Imagine a heated debate. One side raises their voice, argues, gestures. The other remains calm without giving in to provocation. To outside eyes, those who remain silent seem in control of themselves. Those who shout seem slaves to their own insecurity. But be careful. This is not a cowardly or submissive silence. It is an active, conscious silence that refuses to play the other person's game. This silence is uncomfortable for those who are used to controlling through words. Silence is also a tool for perception. It allows you to observe, read the game, and identify invisible patterns. Those who are silent listen. Those who listen understand. And those who understand overcome. The big question here is, why are we so afraid of silence? What is it about silence that compels us to fill the voids with words? Perhaps it is because in the void the mask falls away, and then all that remains is who we really are. If this reflection already makes sense to you, consider subscribing to the channel and activating notifications. Have you ever entered a room where no one said a word, but everyone felt your arrival? That is presence. And presence is worth more than any argument. Presence begins with the body. Stand up straight, look steady, breathe calmly. Without this, silence becomes invisible, almost fragile. But with it, silence becomes a statement. I am here. I don't need to prove anything. Nietzsche would say that a strong man does not need to announce his strength. It emanates from him. Presence is not in the size of your voice, but in the weight of your being. When you master your energy, you command respect without opening your mouth. In the human game, body language carries 70% of the impact. The tone of voice comes later. The words are the icing on the cake. That's why those who cultivate presence can enter silently and leave victorious. The body speaks before the mouth. There is a subtle detail. True presence does not seek to be noticed. Those who try to attract attention force a false magnetism. Genuine presence comes from those who are comfortable with themselves, who do not seek validation. And paradoxically, that is what attracts others. Training presence does not require a stage. It requires awareness in everyday life. It is walking in peace with your gestures. It is looking into someone's eyes without looking away. It is enduring the discomfort of the moment without filling it with useless words. People who master presence transform even silence into creative tension. They make others wonder, what are they thinking? What are they going to do? This shifts control of the interaction. The provocation remains. When was the last time you walked into a room and let your presence speak for you? Perhaps the first step in overcoming someone without saying a word is to stop being invisible and start occupying the space with authenticity. Nothing disarms more than facing someone who is unshaken. When you master your emotions, you take away the greatest power from others, the power to affect you. Nietzsche reminds us that he who cannot control himself will always be controlled. The invisible game begins within. You can be silent, with a firm posture, but if you explode inside, sooner or later your body will betray you. Your gaze wavers, your breathing gives you away. Tension escapes. True emotional control is not repression, it is transformation. You don't stifle anger or swallow fear. You recognize them, understand them, and neutralize them. This takes practice, but those who reach this level become, at the very least, unpredictable. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't react, they lose their script. When they try to humiliate you and you don't wilt, they lose their audience. The impact is not in the response you give, but in what you refuse to give away. Think of a chess player. Their opponent makes an aggressive move. They observe, breathe, calculate. There is no rush, no anger, just cold analysis. Those who react on impulse play with the other person's pieces. Those who control their emotions play with their own board. Here comes a strategic detail. Controlling your emotions is not about becoming stone, but about choosing where to put your energy. You don't react to small attacks, you don't explain yourself to those who don't matter, you don't waste energy on other people's problems. This attitude creates a powerful side effect: frustration in the other person. People who try to destabilize you end up facing their own emptiness. And believe me, few can stand looking in that mirror for very long. My challenge to you: what happens when you stop handing your reactions to others on a silver platter? Who is left when no one else can read you anymore? Nothing is more confusing than realizing that you no longer need the other person. Detachment is the silent weapon that dismantles expectations and shifts the axis of power. Nietzsche would provoke, "Everything that is done out of love happens beyond good and evil." When you break attachment, you also break emotional dependence. And at that very moment, you cease to be predictable. Attachment makes us puppets. We want approval. We want answers. We want victory. The other person feels this, exploits this, controls this. But when you let go of the strings, the game is over. Or rather, the game changes hands. Letting go is not dry indifference or artificial coldness. It is realizing that you are whole without the applause or recognition of others. It is understanding that you can lose someone, or something, and still be yourself. This gives you a freedom that few experience. The most disconcerting thing? The other person feels when you let go. They try to pull you back, test your limits, set emotional traps, and you watch, breathe, and carry on. This calmness is disarming. In practice, detachment is not chasing answers. It is not needing the last word. It is not putting your peace under anyone else's approval. And for that very reason, it is a brutal form of invisible power. The paradox: the more you let go, the more magnetic you become. Because the other person feels that you are not there out of necessity. You are there by choice. And choice is worth its weight in gold in the field of human relationships. The provocation I leave you with: who or what do you still depend on to feel whole? Who really has power over your peace? The predictable is the first to be discarded. The mysterious, on the other hand, occupies space in the minds of others without asking permission. Nietzsche would say that everything that is profound loves a mask. Mystery is not deception, it is protection. It preserves your complexity from the simplistic gaze of others. When you don't reveal everything, when you keep parts of yourself silent, you arouse curiosity and with it power. The common mistake is to confuse transparency with total exposure. Transparency is clarity in principles, not in intimacy. Those who show every detail, every emotion, every thought lose narrative control. They become exposed, predictable, vulnerable. Mystery arises from small attitudes. Not explaining every decision, not justifying every choice, not responding to every provocation. It grows in the space between what you show and what you keep to yourself. And that space is uncomfortable. Others try to decipher, understand, anticipate, and stumble into emptiness. In the social game, whoever controls information controls tension, and tension sustains attention. Mystery creates a presence that echoes even in your absence. It makes you remembered, talked about, pursued between the lines. But be careful. Mystery is not a cheap game, nor is it shallow manipulation. It is not about inventing versions or posing as enigmatic. It is simply not giving away your innermost thoughts as a cheap product in the marketplace of other people's opinions. The impact of this: you become difficult to pigeonhole, difficult to control, difficult to overcome. The other person can no longer play on the field they know because you constantly redefine the terrain. Nothing is more confusing than being confronted by your own reflection. The mirror strategy is simple in appearance but devastating in practice. Give back to the other person what they give you without resistance, without attack, just a reflection. Nietzsche would remind us that man does not want to win, he wants the other to lose. When you mirror, you give the other neither victory nor defeat. You force them to face themselves, and few have the stomach for that. It works like this. If the other person uses sarcasm, you respond with a calm smile, mirroring the irony. If they test your patience with provocation, you respond with a silence that mimics discomfort. If they try to rush you, you slow down. You don't react to the content, you react to the form. This technique disarms because it breaks the expected pattern. The other person expects you to play their game, but you return the game without emotion. This creates a kind of social short circuit. They begin to see themselves through you, and that view is not always pleasant. The secret of the mirror is not in mindless imitation, but in careful reading. It's about perceiving the energy behind the gesture and returning it consciously, amplifying the discomfort. It's an invitation for the other person to see themselves, and often, to break down. In the emotional realm, this acts as a barrier against manipulation. Those who try to dominate by shouting find themselves facing someone who just watches. Those who try to seduce through drama find themselves facing someone who is unmoved. Gradually, the game loses its appeal. My question is, what patterns are you reinforcing by reacting automatically? And what would change if, instead of reacting, you simply mirrored? Few weapons have as much impact as well-applied indifference. It is not coldness, it is not empty disregard. It is a conscious choice of where to place your attention. And attention, today, is worth more than gold. Nietzsche provokes us. What worries me is not that you lied, but that I can no longer believe you. True indifference arises when the other person realizes that they have lost access to your mind, your interest, your emotional field. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you no longer care about the game. Calculated indifference is not chasing after things, not explaining, not fixing what isn't yours. It's letting silence fill the spaces where there used to be reactivity. When the other person realizes that they no longer have an effect, they begin to question their own power. This stance creates a silent reversal. Those who once sought to destabilize you now seek to understand why they have lost importance. Your lack of reaction becomes an uncomfortable mirror. You disappear emotionally before you even leave physically. The thing is, indifference only works when it comes from true detachment. Those who feign indifference but explode inside fool no one. The body betrays. The eyes give it away. The voice falters. But those who truly no longer depend on others carry an almost magnetic force. In the social game, indifference is also a filter. It separates those who were there for what you offered from those who are there for who you are. Those who only wanted control disappear. Those who have something genuine to offer remain. Overcoming someone without saying a word doesn't just mean defeating the other person. It means defeating yourself. And this happens in the most difficult arena of all, that of internal transformation. Nietzsche already warned us, become who you are. This simple and brutal phrase points to a process of refinement that happens in silence. While the other waits for your reaction, you work behind the scenes. While the other tries to trap you in the old game, you have already moved on to the next level. Silent self-transformation is evolution that does not ask for applause. It is studying while no one is watching. It is maturing while no one believes in you. It is strengthening your body and mind without the need to show off. When they finally realize it, it is too late. You have become someone who no longer fits into the old narrative. The impact of this on relationships is devastating. The other person is stuck with a version of you that no longer exists. They try to provoke you, but you no longer respond in kind. They try to blame you, but you no longer feel responsible. They try to manipulate you, but you are no longer emotionally dependent. Silent transformation not only disarms the other person, it changes the rules of the game. This process requires discipline. It requires enduring the discomfort of not being recognized, the patience to plant invisibly, and the strength to resist the urge to prove that you've changed. True growth doesn't need to be announced, it will be felt, sooner or later. The paradox is that by evolving quietly, you increase the impact of the final revelation. When the other person realizes it, they no longer find the old version of you. And then the question arises, were they dealing with who you were or who they thought you were? Changing on the inside is the first step. Changing your place in the social game is the move that consolidates everything. Social repositioning is not just about changing groups or environments. It is about changing the way you appear to the world, and with that, changing the perception others have of you. Nietzsche would point out that the snake that cannot shed its skin perishes. Internal growth without external movement dies in the cocoon. You need to reposition yourself, redefine your role in relationships, make it clear, without saying a word, that you no longer occupy the same role. Repositioning happens in small ways. You stop accepting empty invitations, change the tone of your interactions, prioritize those who lift you up, not those who drain you. You don't need to explain anything. The simple change in frequency causes strangeness. The other person feels the shift before they even understand it. This process creates natural ruptures. Some will drift away because they no longer recognize you as their old ally or adversary. Others will be drawn to your new vibe. And in this silent movement, you refine the quality of the connections around you. The big mistake people make when trying to reposition themselves is wanting to tell the world, "Look how I've changed." Announcing it is noise. Showing it through your behavior is impact. When you change the way you act, choose, and connect, the message is received, without a single word. Repositioning also reinforces mystery and detachment. You cease to be predictable, you step out of easy reach, and you show that your identity does not depend on the external gaze. You become someone who chooses where to be, who to be with, and why. True triumph comes when you no longer need others to see, know, or recognize you. Real victory does not happen on stage. It happens behind the scenes of consciousness. Nietzsche gives us the maxim, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." What few understand is that this strength does not need to be displayed. When you overcome someone without saying a word, without announcing it, without proving it, you break the last link, the need to be seen. Victory without witnesses is subtle but brutal. You look back and realize you are no longer on the same battlefield. The game is over for you, even if the other person continues to play alone. It is the peace that comes when you leave the emotional arena. This victory is not made of applause or revenge. It is made of inner freedom. You no longer need to react, defend yourself, or mark your territory. You have simply transcended the relationship. The impact of this echoes. The other person feels the absence of conflict, notices the void left by your emotional withdrawal, and often tries to pull you back. But you are no longer playing, and that is the final blow. There is no fight against someone who is no longer there. In practice, this victory redefines your relationship with everyone around you. You start choosing your battles, silencing provocations, saving energy for what really matters. You discover that the most elegant superiority is the one that doesn't need to be shown. My final provocation: are you prepared to win without an audience? Are you ready to leave the game without announcing your exit? If this content made sense to you, like the video, share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. I want to know, what was your most memorable silent victory?